It's Christmas Eve, the best time for Christmas facts, so let's talk about Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. Little known fact, it wasn't originally going to be a story at all. Dickens was fairly politically active in his time, and he used to write political pamphlets to try and instigate change. And A Christmas Carol was originally going to be one of them, titled A Plea to the People of England on Behalf of a Poor Man's Child. Dickens was fairly anti-capitalist for his time. Child labor was out of control in England, and wages were unfathomably low. People were working so hard that they couldn't afford their rent, and they couldn't afford health care for the problems that came about for working so hard. Dickens was also a fairly religious man, and he felt that the way that capitalism was in England, it made people choose between working and being a part of their family and religion. Employers were demanding so much from their workers that their workers could barely have a life outside work, and that meant no church, and that meant no family. But he eventually thought that if he published it the way he originally wanted to, as a pamphlet, it would go largely ignored by the upper class, who were the people who needed to hear it. That's where Christmas came in. Dickens looked at Christmas as kind of a great equalizer. On Christmas, you weren't rich or poor, sick or healthy, you were all just people. This was largely because of his own family experience, because he grew up relatively poor, and yet his family would constantly splurge for Christmas celebrations. For one night, he didn't have to be a poor person, he could just be a person, enjoying other people, and celebration, and food, and so on and so forth. And so he decided to package his political tale in a tale about Christmas, because he thought that people would empathize. He made his antagonist, who encapsulated all the things he hated about current capitalism in England, someone who hated Christmas. And he made literally everyone else in the story, the common people, people who just wanted to love Christmas. But he attached his anti-capitalist values to that notion of loving Christmas and loving family. It's really clear, overworking people is bad, taking advantage of people is bad, making people live on, horrible wages and poverty is bad. These are all the things that Scrooge did. And in the end, when Scrooge is redeemed, he gives of himself willingly. He wants to help the poor. And the thing is, Dickens was right. It worked. A Christmas Carol reached a huge audience, way bigger than his pamphlet would have. Way bigger than any of the other pamphlets he published. I mean, think about it. How many pamphlets do you remember? It reached the upper class as well, and while not everyone took that message, it did actually start instigating social change. Of course, it takes more than one story to actually bring about real change, but the point is, Dickens reached the people he wanted to reach. He got the moral of helping out your fellow man and not taking advantage of them for money to people who wouldn't hear it otherwise. In a way, that was Dickens' own Christmas miracle. And we still tell and retell that story to this day. And it all started because he wanted to write an anti-capitalist pamphlet.